Hi, my name's MacKenzie and I work in adult services. Welcome to the Art of Living. Alright, so when you first buy a skein of yarn, it's not going to have this big tail hanging out. Typically it will only have like a little bit hanging out. You can either pull it out by this way or take the label off and there's another. The only difference is if you pull it out of here, your yarn kind of stays put. And if you pull it out under the label, your yarn's going to roll as you crochet. They make bowls for you to put your yarn in, and if that's the way you prefer. I prefer this way because then I can keep my skein here and just pull out. But the skein of yarn has some important information on it that I'd like to share. So first things first, this is acrylic yarn. Some labels include what you can do on them, some don't, but the most important thing in my opinion is this label description on what hook size is recommended. So this is a medium 4 size weight of yarn. That's about smack dab in the middle. And for your crochet hook, it recommends a US H8, which is our system of measurement, or a 5 millimeter, which is metric. So on your hook that you buy, you will see that size written on there. And so you don't have to use the hook that's recommended for that that weight of yarn, but it works out the best if you do. It's easier to work in the yarn. But here's an example of the different weights of yarn. So this is acrylic and this is cotton. So you can tell quite the difference in yarn size. And then we have something like what's known as a weight of 5, which is bulky. So I just wanted to give you an idea of the different types of yarn. Like I said, this is acrylic, the gray, the white is cotton or the tan, and this darker gray is actually a velour velvet type of yarn. So there's all different kinds of a yarn. Each project is probably going to require a certain type, but you really want to try to match whatever type of yarn you're doing with the hook size for the best results. So I am going to be showing you how to do the single stitch in crochet. First we got to get a slip knot. My way of doing it is taking and holding the end of my thread, my end of my yarn, and wrapping it and crossing it in an X behind my fingers and wrapping it around, taking my crochet hook and going in and grabbing the back and pulling it through the front, and that gives me a slip knot. I tighten it on my hook, and then however you feel comfortable holding your yarn, you want to get that tension. And then I hold my hook like a knife, but you can also hold it like this if you would like. So the biggest thing about crochet is getting comfortable using both your hands, trying to get that nice tension on your yarn, not too tight, not too loose, and just feeling comfortable with the movements. So this is called the foundation chain, and all we're going to do is chain here. So we're going to take our hook up under and hook it on it and pull it back through the loop, and we're going to repeat that for, let's do a chain of 15, but we're actually going to do 16 because we need one extra. So that was 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, and each time we're wrapping it around and pulling through. 9, 10, and you can kind of check on your tension as you go. You kind of want each stitch to look consistent, but if it starts like curling up, you're probably too tight, you're holding your yarn too tight, or if it's really big stitches, you're holding your yarn too loose. So we're at 10. So oops, and if that happens to you, mine just slipped off, I'm just going to kind of gently grab it and slip my hook back through it. And then one way you can check is count your stitches. Stitches are going to be in that V shape. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 on the hook. So we're going to pull this through, and that's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So if this was something I wanted 15 stitches, I would need to go in and do an extra stitch, because that's going to be our turning stitch. All right, we're going to start the second row, but what's important is, like I said, these V-shaped stitches, you do not count the loop that's on your hook, and we need to skip one. So we have this one on our hook, and then we skip that one, and we're going to go into that. So we slip this in there, slip the hook in there, and we're going to do just kind of like that foundation chain, where we're going to go behind the yarn, hook it, and pull through. And now you have 2 loops on your hook, and we're going to do that same motion. Come yarn over by going over, grabbing it, hooking it, and pulling through. So that's your first stitch of your second row. We're going to go right into the next stitch and do the same motion. Yarn over, pull over. And we're going to do that all the way down the row. Make sure you're staying only putting 1 stitch per stitch, not putting 2 in 1. Then you'll have trouble. Like I said, those stitches look like V's, and that's a way you can keep track. Or if you're someone who likes to count in their head, I'm not someone who can do that. So I just try to look at the next stitch and keep checked in on my work, make sure. And as you can see, as I'm going, even though I'm holding my hook in the nice shape, I use this finger to support. I do it in every motion. And so you just kind of got to figure out a way that feels comfortable with your hands, which is the challenging part. So we're getting close to the end of the second row. We have 2 more stitches left, so we're going to put a stitch in each one of those. All right, so now we have stitched 2 rows of 15 stitches. So when you get to every row after your second row, you're gonna chain 1 at the end. Because if you remember on our foundation chain, we had that extra stitch. That's this extra stitch gonna be. And what it is your turning chain. So when you get to the end of the row and you put that extra stitch in there, you need to turn your work in your hands. And then we go right into that first stitch. We don't have to skip a stitch, because that's what your turning stitch does for you. Your turning chain, I should say. That's what it's called. So you're into that first one, and then you go into the second one, and that's the same process as your second row. So after your second row, no matter how many rows you got to do, if you're doing single crochet, they should all look the same. The biggest difference is between your foundation chain and that second row, and from your second row to your third, because you're learning how to do that extra chain at the end. And then you, like I said, you can check how your tension is. If I take this off the hook, your work should lay relatively straight. Until you get a few rows on it, it might want to start curling. But if it curls like a lot, like I said, that's more to do with your tension or just not having the same size stitches. My biggest advice for beginners at this stage is, I know it's going to hurt, but you just need to pull it out and start over and repeat. Rinse and repeat until you do it a couple times, because what that does is get you comfortable with holding your hook, but also your yarn tension. I hold my yarn tension like that. I know some people who do it like, I can't even do it like them. Like maybe behind their middle finger. Some people only wrap it around their index finger. It's whatever feels most comfortable to you. There's even rings that you can buy that allow you to kind of put the yarn through them and hold your tension for yourself, so you don't have to do it yourself. So yeah, that's the biggest thing, is just getting comfortable with doing 3 different things with your hands: holding your work, holding your hook, and holding your yarn. And like I said, don't be afraid. Crochet is so easy to pull out and starting over. So that's my intro to crochet, and that's part of the art of living.